First piece is running and powering the CPU to the motherboard. That's running up here and up front. The next two leads coming off of the power supply. These are custom cables that I built in order to run the power distribution to the BitsPower X station. So just two customized cables coming off of the power supply for that. Then we have, of course, the PCIe cables. In this case, we needed two 8-pins to drive the GTX 1080, the EVGA hybrid video card. That's coming through here. And then, of course, we've got the 24-pin coming off the power supply, running the main power through the motherboard itself. Up front, we've got two of the 3.0 USB connections running from the front of the case to the motherboard. Rather bulky, but nonetheless functional. And then we have the power switch also running to the motherboard to the front of the case with a bit of customized cabling to hide some of the wires behind that and the connections behind that. Also installed is an SSHD 2.5 configuration, nice and small. This particular one is a Fire CUDA, so it has 8 gigabytes of solid state, which is facilitating the hard drive in there, 1 terabyte in this case. We've got the power supply to the SSHD coming off of the power distribution board, the X station, and then of course we've got the SATA connection running down to the motherboard. So Parvin's done a great job of supplying an option on where to mount these. We can mount a second one directly behind here. There's capacity for that. Also, we can mount two more over in this section. That allows us some opportunity to grow in the future. We have the temperature zones on the motherboard driving the fans, as I mentioned before. So I think it's rather interesting. In this case, we're running from I think fan header 2 off of the motherboard, and we are driving the front top intake fan. In this case, we've got the fans on top pulling air in, which is a little unusual, but I did it on the last build and I was satisfied with that. And so we'll see how that continues to work and see if we're happy with that on ice. However, the 3 fans being driven off of temperature zone coming off of fan header number 2 on the Gigabyte motherboard is driving the intake, which is clear, and the 2 exhaust fans in back, which are 80 millimeter fans in back, which are also exhausting. So we've got 1 intake and 2 exhausts tied to fan header number 2 on the motherboard, and that is being driven by the VRM's temperature, which is the highest temperature based on the motherboard once it's in operational mode. So when those heat up, the fan curves are set where we pull and push more air through the top of the case where the VRMs are located, and out the back of the case, hopefully to help cool those down. Then we have on this is not a fan header. This is an extension going to the power supply, which is driving the LEDs up in front of the case. And in this case, we have the surrounding LEDs, which are UVs on top and on the back, and that's all we have hooked up here. We also have the LEDs that are the backlights, the red backlights for the motherboard, which were installed behind the motherboard. That's being driven off of our X-Station power distribution. We are also driving some of the auxiliary LEDs, which I'll show you in a minute. We have two. They'll be connected down in the bottom here. This is one, and this one is a 3mm LED. It is connected in front to the hard drive activity, and we will be running that into the side plate here, which has the Ice Dragon engraving in it. And what I've done is, you can barely see it, but right here I have the exterior hole, so the light will shine through, so our Dragon will have an eye that's blinking at you when the hard drive is moving. And then on the back our hole is a little bit bigger in order to take the 3mm. We'll come back to this in a second, because we also have on the back a LED strip which will be lighting up, in this case red, lighting up the back side of the case, and we hope that it's going to shine through into the front of the case to provide some backlighting again. And then on top here we have the main CPU cooling fans attached. We have this being driven off of, obviously, the CPU fan connector. So that's coming to this this extension, and then the two fans on the front radiator, which are cooling the radiator, running through this customized hole. We put this in place so we didn't have to run those wires all the way down and then up and back through. So we put a customized hole in the back panel, or in the mid frame here, in order to run the two fans up and back to the power distribution. And I'm sorry, not the power distribution, but to the fan header extension. So we have both those driving off of that. And again, we've set customized fan curves for that. What we're not seeing here is what is driving the back fan. We'll take a look at that and talk more about that when we look at the front of the case. But as a quick explanation, we have our hybrid EVGA 1080 card, the radiator being cooled by this fan, pulling air from the outside, pushing it through the radiator and into the case, and then exhaust out the back again. And that is being driven by fan header number 3, and the wiring is well tucked away, so you just will not see that either here. You can barely see it here in the back, nor in the front, where we have also some wire channeling in. The fan curve is set more aggressively. So what we have done is we have pulled the stock fan off of the EVGA hybrid 1080 card, and we have disconnected the fan. We replaced the stock fan again with one of these Enermax fans, which seem to work quite well, by the way. And we have established a more aggressive fan curve than what is driving the stock fan for the EVGA card off of the card itself. So we'll talk more about that when we get to the front of the case, or the other side of the case.